So let's talk a little bit about the mother and the great mother and the timeline. So we can date back all the way to the Neolithic times, where all of these different figurines, these figurines that were made out of stone, out of bones, out of earth, clay, were discovered. Hundreds, thousands, dating all the way back to 35,000 BCE, which brings us to the Neolithic times. And these all emphasize the breast, the buttocks, and the vulva. So we know it was female that they were referring to, and different archaeologists like Marija Gimbutas has determined that the feminine and the female and the mother was worshipped. And so this word mother actually derives from the Latin word mater, M-A-T-E-R, which is pronounced mater, the root of the word matter, and symbolizes the physical creation and living substance of life itself. And so that dates us back, and then about 5,000 years ago, around 3000 BCE, we started to see the decline of the feminine. And this, in many ways, was attributed, according to Marija Gimbutas, about the tribes that were coming into from Western Europe and started to introduce the concept of the male god in the heavens and in the sky, and in the religious concepts that we have all heard and are used to hearing. And yes, in many ways, this was the beginning of the patriarchy and the beginning of these patriarchal values, which were brought down in many ways through religion. And so there were and are still indigenous tribes that kept their connection with the mother. So we're really specifically talking about the dominant culture, the patriarchal culture, the culture of, being colonized, and so not everywhere, but the dominant culture. And so in many ways, we can look at the timeline and start to see that in the Neolithic, when we go all the way back to the Neolithic time, the mother is still worshipped. And then you come forward closer to the Bronze Age, which is about 3000 to 1200 BCE. And there you start to see this emergence of the patriarchy and the kings, and the fragmentation starts to happen. And moving forward into the Iron Age, where we would date that at 1200 BCE, you have the split of the feminine, and the feminine is now considered more like the virgin, or seen as the demon, in many ways have been demonized. And you continue during that timeline, and you start to see the religious, the inquisitions, the religious domination, and the suppression of the teachers, the healers, the midwives, in many, many ways. And so all of this is on our timeline, and you can start to get an idea that even though we talk about this in the dominant culture of the last 5,000 years, which is really a small time reference when we compare that all of these unearthed figurines of the mother date back to thousands and thousands, like I said, 35,000 years BCE, right? So that's at least 37,000 years ago. So in many ways, the repression of the feminine, the repression of the mother, the repression of the divine being a part of the sacredness of all of creation, of the earth, of the trees, of ourselves, and right here with us, not something separate from us, is really relatively new in terms of the timeline that we've lived.